Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're focusing not so much on a god or a hero, but on the weapon.
That's right. We're looking at a really fascinating story from Hindu mythology.
Specifically, we're exploring this dramatic moment where, well, arguably the most powerful weapon in the cosmos gets a pretty serious ego, demands credit.
It really does. It tries to sort of dismantle the reputation of the god who wields it. It's quite the confrontation,
The story is called Sudarshana Vijaya.
which just translates to the victory of Sudarsana.
Hmm.
And our source material, interestingly, comes from an excerpt about the script and performance of this specific story.
Right, within a unique Indian art form called Yakshagana.
Exactly. And it gives us this incredibly detailed look into the psychological drama behind the myth.
So our mission today is really to unpack this moment. You've got Sudarsana, that's Lord Vishnu's famous razor-sharp disc weapon, basically stepping out and saying, hold on, you think he's the hero, I was the engine room.
Yeah, it's a powerful claim. We want to go beyond just recounting the story.
We want to explore what it tells you, our listeners, about how we think about power, about capability, about validation, especially when the tool itself becomes just too important to ignore.
And Sudarsana here isn't just like a passive object. It's personified. It's an entity with pride, immense capability, and a really sharp self-awareness.
The ultimate celestial tool for order, but also destruction.
And the core conflict of the victory, it's this confrontation that happens when this incredibly powerful tool suddenly realizes, hey, I'm irreplaceable, and starts questioning the authority that controls it.
It's almost like a mythological intellectual property dispute, isn't it?
That's a great way to put it, actually.
So that sets things up really nicely. We often just assume, that the success and the intelligence, it all lies with the person or the god in
Right,
charge.
one holding the reins.
But what happens when the implement itself pipes up and says, wait a second, I'm not just helping out here, I am the foundational capability. Without me, you couldn't do what you do.
It's a fundamental challenge.
So we'll start by looking at the way this story is told through this really intense performance art, Yakshagana. Understanding that vessel helps us grasp the psychological crisis.
Definitely. And then we'll dive into Sudarsana's claims, because they're surprisingly detailed, quite sophisticated arguments for why he's essential.
Okay, so before we get right into Sudarsana's ego trip, let's talk about how this story gets told, because the context matters, right?
Absolutely. Our sources are clear that this narrative, Sudarshana Vijaya, is performed within the Yakshagana art form.
And this isn't like just reading a script. It sounds like a full-on spectacle.
It really is. The source describes Yakshagana as known for a rare combination of different dimensions. It's not just one thing.
It's holistic. It pulls everything together.
Yeah, it demands this kind of total embodiment from the performer. And that directly feeds into how the audience experiences the character's, internal struggle.
So what does that involve? The source lists quite a few things.
It does. You've got music, specific instruments, dance, intricate expressions, and then these incredibly detailed costumes and makeup.
Wow. So it's a complete sensory experience.
A synthesis of disciplines, exactly. And importantly, it's not just about looking good. There's a huge physical commitment involved.
Ah, okay. Tell us about that.
Well, the source specifically mentions the physical demands. It says it involves a lot of cardio.
Cardio.
Yeah, and it even makes a little aside appealing to fitness freaks.
Huh. So you have to picture these performers maybe for hours on end.
Right, under these heavy, elaborate costumes, thick makeup, doing precise movements, delivering dialogue. The sheer physical exertion must be immense.
That physical effort to have to connect to the story then, to Sudarsana's internal battle.
I think that's precisely the link. The argument Sudarsana makes isn't some quiet philosophical point. It's presented as this huge, exhausting, spectacular confrontation.
And the performer manifests that physically.
Exactly. If the character's driven by this immense pride, this need to assert his own essential nature, the external performance has to match that intensity.
And the costumes, the makeup, they're not just decorative.
No? Think about the weight. They literally represent the burden of that identity, the status, the ego. Sudarsana's ego is heavy, and the performer is literally carrying that weight.
That's a fantastic connection. The heavy costume mirroring the heavy burden of pride.
Yeah.
It ups the stakes visually and physically.
And there's this other really strong claim in the source material about Yakshagana.
Oh, yeah.
The belief that it's potentially the only art form in the whole world that brings all these different dimensions together simultaneously.
That's a huge claim.
It is. Now, whether that's objectively true globally is one thing, but it definitely shows the incredible reverence for how unique and all-encompassing this art form is considered. It's about total narrative embodiment.
Okay, so summing that up,
Yeah.
the way the story is told is this multi-dimensional, totally integrated, high-effort performance.
Then the story itself, the Sudarshana Vijaya, is probably also about that kind of integration, but in terms of power.
Right. Sets the stage for the listener. This isn't just about who gets the credit. It's a drama about the fundamental structure of how capability even works.
And that intensity, that complexity from the performance, it primes us perfectly to understand the complexity of Sudarsana's argument.
Yeah.
He's not just a spinning disc here.
He's spinning a whole narrative about his place in the cosmos.
Okay, so let's get into the story itself. What actually sparks this cosmic argument?
Well, interestingly, the Sudarshana Vijaya storyline kicks off in a pretty quiet, almost domestic setting.
Right. It starts with goddess Lakshmi. She's the consort, the wife of Lord Vishnu.
And she's doing what you might expect. She's praising her husband, talking about how majestic he is, his big achievements.
Especially his role in upholding cosmic order, defeating powerful enemies, the Asuras, the sort of classic mythological demons.
Seems pretty standard in active devotion. But this is where it all goes sideways for Sudarsana.
This is where the drama really ignites. Because when Lakshmi is praising Vishnu for these victories, specifically mentioning the defeat of these Asuras, Sudarsana's ego gets hurt.
His ego gets hurt. The weapon's ego.
Yes. It's described exactly like that. It's not just a feeling, it's a deep offense. Like the indispensable engineer watching the CEO take all the credit for the project launch.
Yeah, that feeling of being essential but completely overlooked. It suggests maybe this wasn't the first time, right? Maybe this powerful tool has been kind of simmering, feeling taken for granted.
I think that's implied. The story really leans into the idea that even, well, non-human things, especially ones central to success, can feel pride, maybe even envy. They want validation.
So Sudarsana isn't just some inanimate object here. He feels slighted because his contribution, the actual work involved in those victories, isn't being recognized.
Precisely. And he doesn't just sulk about it.
No, he escalates things. The source says he shows up to Lakshmi. He goes directly to her to confront her.
Which takes incredible audacity, you have to admit. The weapon challenging the goddess of wealth and fortune herself.
It's a huge act of self-assertion, almost like an insurrection of the tool shed.
Yeah. And his goal is very clear. He wants to convey how important and capable he also is. He's not asking for a pat on the back.
No, he seemed to be demanding equal billing. He's basically arguing that Vishnu's victories are just like management overseeing his essential high-tech contribution.
And this leads us to the absolute core of his argument, his central assertion, which is really game-changing.
What does he claim?
He argues very explicitly that without him, Vishnu have no rights.
Wow, have no rights. That's strong language.
It is. It's critical. It doesn't just mean Vishnu would be less successful. It suggests Vishnu's very legitimacy, his right to act as the preserver in the cosmos, is fundamentally tied to Sudarsana's existence.
So he's saying Vishnu could not have killed those demons, couldn't fulfill his cosmic duty without him.
Exactly that. The argument shifts from Vishnu being strong to Vishnu being enabled.
So if the user's ability to act depends entirely on the specialized capability of the tool,
then the tool essentially becomes a co-owner of the victory. It shares in the success because it made it possible.
that completely changes the dynamic. Sudarsana moves from being just an accessory, something useful,
To being a necessary prerequisite. The Vijaya, the victory itself, becomes contingent on the tool. It challenges that whole traditional hierarchy of divine power.
This is the point where Sudarsana stops being just a spinning disc in our minds.
And starts being the embodiment of integrated capability.
It really makes you ask, if the tool is so essential that the wielder can't function without it, who really holds the power? Is it truly hierarchical anymore?
It pushes the idea of the essential support system to a divine cosmic level.
Okay, so if Sudarsana just showed up and complained, maybe Lakshmi could have dismissed him. But he comes with evidence, right? This is where the deep dive gets really interesting.
Exactly. He doesn't just make a general claim. He backs it up by detailing how his power, his essence, was fundamentally integrated into Vishnu's various major earthly forms, the avatars.
He's arguing he wasn't just an accessory worn by the avatar, but the actual functional component that made the avatar effective for its specific mission.
Yes, this is where the argument becomes really sophisticated. He's not just talking about times Vishnu through the disk in its usual form, he's claiming his core nature, that power of precision, destruction, maybe even resilience, had to morph and become part of the avatar's body.
Total system integration, basically.
That's the claim. Let's look at the specific examples the source gives us.
Okay, first up is Matsya, the fish avatar. This was Vishnu's first big incarnation, right?
Yeah.
During the Great Flood, saving the sacred text.
That's the one. And for Matsya, Sudarsana claims he was the wings of the fish avatar.
Wings on a fish. That sounds odd. Fish have fins?
It does seem counterintuitive at first glance, but think about the context. A cosmic flood, a desperate race against time to save knowledge, traversing this vast, chaotic ocean.
Okay, so wings here might imply something more than just swimming.
I think it implies extraordinary speed, navigational power, maybe the ability to cut through the deluge rapidly, perhaps even move between different planes or realities to find those texts. Matsya needed unparalleled velocity.
So Sudarsana is saying, I provided the specialized engine, the high-speed navigation system.
Exactly. The wings represent the critical capability for speed and direction that made the time-sensitive rescue possible. Without that specific function, Matsya might have been too slow or gotten lost. Mission failure.
It's like saying the fish body was the chassis, but Sudarsana was the high-performance engine and GPS needed for that specific task.
A good analogy. The tool provides the crucial difference between just existing and being effective.
Okay, what's the next claim? The boar avatar, Varaha.
Varaha, who famously dived into the cosmic ocean, fought the demon Hiranyaksha, and lifted the submerged Earth back to safety on his tusks.
A mission requiring immense strength and, well, digging power.
Right, and for Varaha, Sudarsana claims he was the horns of the boar avatar. Or tusks, depending on the imagery, but the source uses horns.
Horns or tusks, they're tools of brute force, confrontation, leverage.
Precisely. They were essential for digging down to find the Earth, for the physical power needed to lift its immense weight, and crucially, for battling the demon who put it there.
So Sudarsana is arguing his intrinsic power, the ability to penetrate, overcome resistance, break things, was channeled into those horns.
Yes, he's saying, I was the heavy-duty power tool integrated into the form. The Varaha shape provided the platform, but the horns, infused with Sudarsana's destructive and leveraging power, were necessary to actually do the job.
And defeating the demon was key. If Varaha couldn't win that fight, he couldn't save the Earth.
Correct. So
Lovely.
Sudarsana's horns, by enabling that victory, were fundamental to the entire mission's success. The tool, again, is positioned as indispensable.
Okay, third example. Kurma, the tortoise avatar. This one's different, right? Less about fighting, more about stability.
Exactly. Kurma's role was during the Samudra Manthan, the great churning of the ocean of milk to produce the nectar of immortality, Amrit. Kurma served as the base, supporting the huge, churning mountain Mandara on his back.
A purely structural role, but absolutely vital.
And for Kurma, the great enduring foundation, Sudarsana claims he was the shell.
The shell, the ultimate symbol of protection, endurance, structural integrity.
It makes perfect sense in this context. Kurma's job wasn't offensive. It was to bear an unimaginable weight, the crushing pressure and friction of a mountain spinning on his back for ages.
If that shell cracks, the whole operation fails. The mountain sinks, the churning stops, no Amrit.
Right. So Sudarsana, by claiming to be the shell, is arguing he provided the unwavering stability, the resilience, the sheer structural integrity needed for this monumental, long-duration cosmic project.
This really broadens the definition of Sudarsana's power, doesn't it? It's not just sharp edges and speed, it's also fundamental strength and endurance.
It is. It's like the unseen, unglamorous, but utterly critical infrastructure. Sudarsana is saying, I am the bedrock foundation that allowed creation to happen.
People cheer the results, the nectar, but forget the thing that held it all up.
And Sudarsana is making sure Lakshmi, and by extension, us, remembers that essential base layer. Without his essence providing that protection, that stability, the churning fails.
That's a very clever argument. He's showing his essential nature across completely different functional domains: speed, aggression, and now structural support.
Which brings us to the fourth and maybe the most famous example cited. Narasimha, the man-lion avatar.
And Narasimha, who had that incredibly specific task, kill the demon Hiranyakashipu, who had a boon making him almost invincible.
Couldn't be killed by man or beast, inside or outside, day or night, on the ground or in the air, by any weapon. The list goes on.
It required a very precise, loophole-exploiting solution.
And for Narasimha, Sudarsana claims he was the claws.
Claws. Not an external weapon, but part of the being itself. Sharp, natural, deadly.
They represent that personalized, specialized destruction. They are the very things that allowed Narasimha to bypass all the conditions of the boon killing at twilight, on the threshold, with claws which aren't conventional weapons, while being neither man nor beast.
So Sudarsana is claiming to be the legal exploit, the specialized tool that found the only way to complete the mission under impossible constraints.
That's essentially the argument. I was the unique, integrated capability that executed the kill when nothing else could. Without the specific, focused, destructive power inherent in those claws, which he claims was his power refined into that form, Narasimha couldn't have succeeded, no matter how powerful the rest of the avatar was.
He's taking credit for the defining moment, the kill shot, the surgical strike that made the whole avatar's existence worthwhile.
So when you put all four examples together, rings for speed, horns for force, shell for stability, claws for specialized destruction, Sudarsana's egoistic declaration becomes this incredibly comprehensive case.
He's not just bragging. He's presenting a portfolio of his essential contributions across Vishnu's key missions.
He's arguing he is the adaptable capability inherent in the divine forms themselves. The Sudarsana Vijaya story, then, is almost like this profound mythological critique.
A critique suggesting that we often give all the glory to the figurehead, the wielder,
while overlooking the essential, specialized, integrated power provided by the tool, which might actually be the reason for success.
It really forces us, the listeners, to rethink where power actually resides. If Vishnu's whole role as the maintainer of cosmic order depends so heavily on these integrated capabilities that Sudarsana provided.
If the tool is literally the structural support, the functional engine, the crucial exploit mechanism,
then the relationship is much more symbiotic, much more interdependent than just a simple master-servant dynamic.
Exactly. And maybe that level of deep interdependence is what justifies Sudarsana's incredible nerve in confronting Lakshmi in the first place.
He wasn't just whining for credit. He felt he was stating a fundamental, functional truth about how the cosmos actually operates. Hashtag tag take outro.
So we've journeyed from understanding this really intense, total embodiment art form, Yakshagana,
All the way through Sudarsana's incredibly detailed claims about his own essential nature.
And the core drama, the Sudarshana Vijaya, it really hinges on that distinction, doesn't it? The difference between a weapon just being used.
And a weapon being fundamentally essential.
Yeah.
So essential that the wielder's form and function literally depend on it.
And the performance, the Yakshagana performance, captures that intensity because the stakes feel incredibly high for Sudarsana. He's not just asking for recognition. He's fighting for his perceived rightful place in the cosmic order.
The whole narrative raises these really deep, timeless questions about how we attribute success, how we assign value.
Especially when you have a tool or maybe a system or a capability that adapts its fundamental nature, its energy, to become the crucial component in wildly different situations.
Providing speed, then force, then stability, then precision killing.
When something is that adaptable and that necessary across the board, it really does demand a reevaluation of its importance, right?
Sudarsana's argument ultimately is that his power wasn't just something Vishnu occasionally picked up and used. It was structurally integrated into Vishnu's very ability to manifest and act effectively in the world.
He promoted the specialized intellectual property, if you like, that made Vishnu's diverse operations viable.
So he's demanding the glory be shared, because the victories were structurally impossible without his contribution.
And that, I think, is the core insight for us today. If a tool or a system or even a person providing support is so fundamental that the main entity, the leader, the hero, cannot succeed or even function properly without it,
then maybe we need to shift how we see that relationship. It's less about top-down hierarchy.
and more about symbiosis, mutual dependence. The tool isn't just asking for credit, it's claiming functional co-ownership of the mission's success.
It definitely makes you look around at our own world, doesn't it? Our own systems.
Yeah, like highly specialized workers or the unseen digital infrastructure that everything runs on now, or maybe the foundational code that underlies all our tech.
Or even just the often unheralded support staff who keep major organizations running smoothly day to day.
So the provocative thought maybe to leave you, the listener, with is this. What contemporary examples can you see? In technology, maybe in governance, in your workplace, where we might be mistaking the power and visibility of the leader
For the truly essential, often unacknowledged, capability provided by an integrated tool or support system.
How often is that foundational shell, or those uniquely effective claws, overlooked or undervalued, ignored in favor of the heroic figure holding the, well, metaphorical disc?
That's the question Sudarsana, in his egoistic fury, kind of leaves us wrestling with.
It's a powerful reminder, really, that victory, success, progress, it's almost always contingent on the strength and the proper valuation of those specialized essential parts we so often take for granted.
ॐ नमो नारायणाय ॐ नमो नारायणाय